So we wanted to look at um, state records to see if they were doing that. And there is a law that we believe allows us to be able to look at that, not to look at names of kids or anything like this, but to actually understand what the state has been doing. And they have disagreed with that and have not wanted to open those files. And so the Tennessean, under the leadership of our editor, Maria Devereen, pulled together a coalition of media organizations to sue the state. I hope that that effort is eventually successful. I think we have had some success, along the way, exposed cases, some other situations in the Department of Children's Services where things weren't being done right, and in fact, earlier this year, the commissioner for that agency stepped aside.
The strength of the human spirit and the natural tendency for human nature to swing to the good side. People are always, I've found, they've always been willing to share their story. It just takes a little bit of common courtesy. You introduce yourself, you tell them why you're there, and you talk to them, and you tell them you're just there because a lot of people are interested, and they also have an emotional connection to what's going on. I've never had anybody who was nasty in return. They've been upset, obviously, because of the situation. You have to let them be the judge of the situation. You can't come in and tell people. You've got to come in and you've got to ask people. For the most part, people have been very understanding of why I'm there, what it is I want to do, and they've been very willing to let me document their situation.
Photojournalism is just journalism that's told through the photographic medium. You're still responsible for telling the truth. You're still responsible for being objective. You're still responsible for enlightening your community into a world that they either can't see or won't see. Your responsibility as a journalist is the same, or a photojournalist is the same as any other journalist. I feel very fortunate to be able to use the medium of photography to be able to tell that story. My picture's worth 1,000 words, hopefully, and I prefer to write with a camera than I do with a pencil or with a computer now. It's not the most lucrative profession, but it's extremely rewarding. You meet different people from all walks of life, from all different cultures, religions, makeups. People will allow me for a few moments to come in and intrude upon their lives and tell other people about how they live and what they're doing.
Has your faith had a part to play in any story that you have chosen or thrown out there to a media?
Well, my faith plays a part in everything I do every single day, and I try to approach my stories in a way that God would want me to approach them, and I try to be an advocate for those who don't have a voice and those who are being taken advantage of. And I just feel that God gives me the right words to use. I don't always do a great job, but I try to do my best. And sometimes I fall short. But you get back up and, you try the next day. But faith is a part of everything I do every single day and the way that I live my life.
I remember one time to another colleague, and she may not have meant any harm, but we were just having a conversation about writing, and she became an editor later, and then she left and went to do something else in the media communications field. But she was saying something about she didn't think journalism was something for black people or something like that, And she didn't say it in a mean way, but she was just saying, I guess if you look at what people good at or what people do, and that kind of puzzled me, Mm-hmm. So you get stuff like that. I think people question you, sometimes, and I'm not saying that's always the case. I've had some good bosses and people who maybe was a little bit hard on you, or they felt like you had to prove something. But I guess you can't let all that get to you. You can't really have a thin skin and succeed in this business. You have to let certain things fly by, and if you're a person of faith, you just press on, what you're there for, and I think as people start to see your capabilities and stuff, then all of that start to go away.
The younger ones, when you run across a high school kid in a situation like that, I remember, and this wasn't a story I did, but I remember we had another like that. Tim Dobbins, who played at Glencliff. You know, he had a child that he was trying to take care of while he was in high school, but he's, you know, trying to pursue a football career, and he wound up having to go to junior college, and then he winds up going to Iowa State and getting drafted and that kind of thing. And you hear about those kind of things, and I don't know that we as journalists are necessarily in position to be able to tell, but, you know, hopefully maybe somebody sees it and, you know, reaches out to those guys or those people in those situations. And that's, you know, that's kind of what we do.
Something that has been really, something that's had a profound effect on me professionally and personally has been my work with the community. I think if you work in an industry where you depend on people to keep you on the air, it's important that you give them a reason for you to be here. And this business has always given us so many opportunities to reach out and to help people. I think my signature cause has been the Second Harvest Food Bank. And that, of course, goes back to my childhood and growing up in a big family. And while there were always challenges as far as money goes, I've never known a day when I didn't have enough to eat.
And he said, I'm getting ready to leave the committee, and I'm going to write a book about my experiences, and I need help on it. Would you be willing to extend your leave from the newspaper, excuse me, for 6 months? And we'll live here at Hickory Hill. My family will be gone during the summer months, and we'll just be in the house together. And you and I can work on the book every day. And I believe if we dedicate ourselves to it, we can do it in 6 months. And I said, well, I'll have to arrange it with my paper. And the paper was happy for me to do it. They thought, you'll be a better journalist for the experience. So I did it. We lived there for 6 months. But from late May until early September, 2 of us lived in that house. There were 2 secretaries who came out, Angie Novella and Dorothy Fry. And working together, we produced that book. It was called The Enemy Within.
And it's like, we get to put anything on TV we want. That's pretty cool. Now, we have competition, and we better be better than the other guys, because there's choices. But I've never, people say in sports, you'll know that kind of day when you're done. And I never got that, and then I did. There's a day maybe that you run out of your passion and enthusiasm for this business. I've not clearly gotten to that point yet, and hope I never do. So there is, you talk about you got to work, not for the love of the money or, my worst day here, I promise you, is better than most people's best days at their jobs if they don't like it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely, my problems and concerns and troubleshooting and issues I've got to deal with in the newsroom and out here are, I like to figure it out, and then you come back the next day and it's blank again, right? And you start all over. That's pretty powerful.
My sort of idea of why Talk of the Town is still going on 29 years later is the loyal viewers.
Because number one, the people behind the scenes know what they're doing.
I got to see what was going on in this town, and I learned a lot about Nashville by watching Talk of the Town. So I think that's what made it so special and so important, and that's why it's still on today, I think.
A lot of folks tell us they grew up watching the show, they now have kids watching the show. And as you know, with viewers often, it's habit, and what they start out watching, they feel familiar with.
It's a show that is there to entertain people in the middle of the day. And in order to do that, you've got to have segments that people will want to watch. And because of the work that Tawanda, Meryl, and Amy do, they make it easier for me to then come in and to be a co-host of that show. We give them cooking segments because people want to learn new ideas about cooking. They want easy ways to cook something for dinner, especially in our busy lives for today.
It's a window into this community. It is Nashville.
Some of the feedback we get, they like how we just seem like ordinary people, and we seem like a family, and we try to bring to them things that we feel like would be generally of interest to them, that they may not know about, but we really think you should. So we feel like they felt that our viewers who have been so loyal to us just kind of love what we do.
It's being able to engage people to come in and to say, hey, come spend a half hour with us.
I think we're a host-driven show, that they really have sort of affection for Leland and Marilyn when Harry was here, and they feel like they've seen our children grow, and they saw me get married, and so you feel that connection to the folks that you tune into every day. So we're very fortunate, whatever the reason is, we're very fortunate they've stuck with us and made us a ratings leader for 29 years.
It's one of the most successful local talk shows in the country. The show is now pushing 30 years on the air. So again, that makes it one of the most successful local talk shows in the country. And at times, we are the #1 talk show in town. That's #1 no matter what local show is on across the board, or even at certain days having more viewers locally than Ellen may have, than some of the other talk shows out there that they may have.
Passion for the business. You want to do it. And if it's not a passion, you know, if you're just doing it for the glory, or if you're just doing it so people will love you and think wonderful things about you, then you're in the wrong business. You've got to have a passion. You've got to love it. You've got to want to do it.
So the contributor kind of humanizes homelessness for people.
We're trying, yeah, as much as we can to put a face on it and to reverse the stereotypes. And I'm really pleased when people will call and just show great concern for their vendor or for someone that they met. And I often wonder if these are people who maybe a few years ago, maybe or maybe not, I wonder if they had that kind of deep concern for a random, to them, random homeless person before. They may have, but maybe not in all cases. And so I always am proud of the work that the paper does when people find themselves kind of converted in that sense to care for people who they don't know, maybe in a different way. And there's a lot of people in Nashville who care in deep ways, and there are people who care for people on the other side of the world and people next door, but we're trying to say that there's a lot of suffering in our own city.
At this stage of my career, I'm writing about Nashville and all the things that are happening right now, and Nashville's been so under the microscope with national and international media for the past couple of years that I think it couldn't be a better time. And previously, I worked at a music magazine that was based here for 6 years, and we covered international things, and so my scope of focus was very different. And to be honest, this is so much more fun. I mean, to really get out and almost be like an anthropologist and explore your community. It's essential to what I do, and I think to do that, you really have to live somewhere for a little bit and really get to know the city like the back of your hand. And that's just what I've been trying to do the past few years. And you know, of course, you could do that in other cities, but you know, right now, why would I want to? Everything I need is here right now, and it's such a wonderful place to be. So, yeah, I love Nashville.
Well, I think ever since the movie Anchorman,
oh my gosh,
there's a lot of misconceptions. But the funny thing about that movie is sometimes it seems kind of true to life.
That's hilarious.
We joke about that sometimes. You know, I think there's a misconception that you spend. You know, I would say on average, I probably spend 15 to 20 minutes on my hair and makeup before the news, which I don't know if that's a lot or if that's not that much, but it really is such a small percentage of your day. I mean, the newscast is like 5% of your day, the actual broadcast, and there's so much work that goes into it beforehand. I think that's something I didn't necessarily realize when I was in college. By the time you've been out in the rain and the snow and the wind and whatever else is going on outside and whatever crazy issue you've been running around to cover, and you blow back into the newsroom and you're like, you think about going on the air. It's not as glamorous at that point as maybe you envisioned it would be. But it's also more fun than you think it might be, too.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's like a scavenger hunt every day. You know, you've got to kind of run around and find all these missing pieces, and you know somebody at the other station's doing the same thing, so you know you're kind of under the gun.